I'm curious how much of what Trump is doing actually has to do with population decline. So if you think about what happened to Detroit when this is not necessarily population decline. Detroit lost residents because industry had left. But then you see poverty, crime, and other problems start to emerge. I'm wondering how much of what Trump is doing with sending the National Guard is to try and create a foundation of stability, because in the next 10 years, it is going to get increasingly worse with population decline and infrastructure collapse due to a lack of a labor market.
Human capital.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the largest consumer bases, the boomers, are dying. They're now at the mortality cliff. Gen Alpha is tiny, and Gen Z can't work. You saw that report that said Gen Z brings their parents with them to job interviews?
Unreal.
Yeah.
Right. I did see that.
Yeah, Tate brought both his moms.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Both.
you're very hospitable, which I respect. So.
That's really good. Both.
Yeah, so if the expectation is that cities are going to get worse than they are now, I'm wondering if Trump and his admin are looking at this. I mean, I'd have to say that with someone like Stephen Miller, that guy's smart. And he knows with the immigration stuff we're doing, he's looking at demographic numbers. I guarantee you the Trump admin knows full well you cannot simultaneously have low fertility and no immigration. Immigration isn't a solution, by the way. It's a bandage and a bullet wound.
Yep.
And so they're saying we can't keep doing that. They also realize we have a fertility crisis 20 years ago. So I think they're looking at this and there's something they're preparing for. If they're not, we're cooked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the fact that there is going to be such a problem with, like we said, human capital, like that's a really big issue. And if people don't have a positive outlook on not only their communities, but also law enforcement in general, you're going to have significantly fewer police officers. I mean, it's likely, I don't know if it's likely, but I wouldn't be surprised if big cities in the future kind of become those dystopias from sci-fi movies from the 80s where you need to have a really militarized police force actually patrolling the streets and just to keep, the population safe or keep them kind of subdued,
I think 2030 is going to be wild. And for about 5 years, it's going to be nuts in this country.
How so?
So we've got the fourth turning. Strauss out generational theory. This is bothering me. You want to rotate that way? Other way.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm just getting my OCD on. Strauss out generational theory predicts that 2028 is supposed to be the year of the Great Crisis. So as the story goes, every 80 years there's a turning, a fourth turning. So 80 years ago, of course, what did we have?
World War II.
The World Wars. I mean, some people make the argument that they were functionally the same wars because World War II was the result of World War I. Yeah. 80 years before that.
Civil War? No.
Yes. 80 years before that.
Revolutionary War?
Indeed. And actually, you can keep going. Most of us don't track what happened 80 years before the American Revolution because it's pre-American history. It's like colonial history, but there actually was a Great Crisis. And it actually bifurcates into the UK as well because we had a shared culture in society. So the prediction is something is going to happen here. I'm looking at everything that's going on right now. We've got actual fertility right now. Some have estimated, and maybe this is conspiratorial lunacy, 0.3. When you hear that fertility is at 1.6 or whatever, they're including older people who stopped having kids but had kids. So they're asking people, how many kids have you had? How many, and for the fertility rate includes people who are now exiting childbearing years.
So what does the 0.3 include then?
Young people. So you're supposed to, it's supposed to be 20-year-olds, people in their 20s having kids. And there's some estimates that say Gen Z fertility is at like 0.3, and some estimate it may be 0.8. And that makes complete sense if you ask me. But I'll tell you this, there was a really funny meme I saw, and it was a 4chan meme where someone said, hey, my grandpa gave me his PS1. Does anybody have any Anybody have any recommendations for games? The first response is, this has to be rage bait. And they said, my grandfather is 58 years old. He got the PlayStation 1 when he was 28. My dad was 8 years old. My dad had me at 20. I'm 18. But see, the millennials and Gen Z don't have kids. So they're like, no way your grandpa had a PS1. It's like, dude, he's 60.
Right.
Well, the interesting thing with the Gen Z millennials not having kids is it's actually really important when you're looking at TFR. There was a Stephen Shaw, he's like a demographic expert, and he broke down there's actually a difference between total maternity rate and children per mother. So children per mother tracks obviously the average amount of children that a mother has, a mother meaning someone that's had a kid before, and then the total maternal rate. And the TMR's dropped. So like the amount of women that are having children is completely dropped, but the amount of mothers that have had children is consistent. So women are still having 2 to 3 children, but there's not as many mothers. There's fewer mothers.
When you take into account the fact that there's fewer
when
women overall.
Right, but when they decide to have a kid, they still have 2 to 3. So it's not that like they're having less kids overall, if that makes sense. It's that there's just less people deciding
The
to become
crisis
mothers.
is marriage, essentially.
The crisis actually starts earlier. It starts before. It's like, yeah, once they decide to have a child, they're going to have 2 to 3 still. That's perfectly fine. That mechanism is still working. And I think this is why stuff like cleaning up cities is because like nihilism is just so pervasive that people just don't want to become mothers.
There's no way to reverse the trend. It's not possible. It's a math problem. If you need, there's various estimates of what the fertility rate needs to be to sustain a civilization, and it's at least replacement, but it's actually a little bit higher than 2. So
2.1 is what I hear usually.
And the reason is because sometimes babies die and people don't make it to adulthood. Yeah. So you need a little bit higher than normal. When you are below that, and I believe we're currently at 1.6.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you're tracking young people who are supposed to be having kids, I've heard estimates from 0.8 to 0.3, and don't really know for sure because Gen Z includes people who should not be having kids. Gen Z includes teenagers who we don't expect to have children. You need it's exponential. If you have less than 2 kids, your population shrinks. Then to get back to your functioning human capital size required to maintain the infrastructure of the civilization, you need twice as much. Right. This means that Gen Z needs to have 4 kids to fix the damage of millennials and Gen Xers, which they're not going to do, and they're not doing, which means the prediction is the boomers are at the mortality cliff. They're going to start dying faster and faster. The oldest boomers are 79. That is mortality. Within the next 5 years, we expect there to be a massive, we call it the mortality cliff. It's when boomers are going to die in large numbers. And within 5 to 10 years, there should be about 20 million boomers left from 65 million. So it's a massive drop off in the consumer market. Though these individuals normally would be replaced by the next generation at bare minimum, they're not. This means you're not going to be able to buy strawberries at your grocery store. Your grocery stores are probably going to go out of business. You will have to drive 50 miles to find standard goods, and there's going to be huge lines for it. This is going to create a snowball effect, which creates a massive depression, and it's going to take several years to climb out of that depression once people start rebuilding the infrastructure. But that's why I think, to go back to the main point, when we're looking at what Trump is doing, I have to assume that his administration is taking into consideration the known fertility crisis alongside the mass deportations.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly have to account for it. And like immigration, it won't even be there forever as a Band-Aid because even across the third world now, their fertility is crashing. Like India is now below replacement. Within the last 3 years, they've dropped below replacement. So all these like complex demographic theories on birth rates has like all gone out the window when India went below replacement. It's like, it's something completely different.
Now, even these sub-Saharan African countries that were literally averaging 4, 5, 6 children, they're now, I mean, I'm speaking in very broad terms here, but they're down to like 3, 4, sometimes even 2 point something now. So
Mali went from 14 to 7 in like 8 years.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a global trend. I mean, it's no longer just a first world, highly developed society trend.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and to that point, like even if you just import people, like people aren't cogs, right? People can't just be like, oh, well, we'll just get more people in here, and the people that will come will be able to do the jobs that we need them to do. Mm-hmm. Even the Democrats know this. They continuously say, oh, well, who's going to pick the fruit? Who's going to do the menial labor? That's not really what you want immigration for, if you want immigration at all, right? Like the point, like when people talk about the United States being pro-immigration, the idea that they're generally trying to convey, or at least the argument they're trying to make to people is, we want to get the best and brightest. We want to get the people that really excel. We want the smartest people in the world to come to the U.S. But that's not what's happening. And it hasn't been happening for a long time. Like this, there are people that come that are smart, sure. But the vast majority of the people that are coming to the United States, the immigrants, whether they be illegal or H-1B visas, they're not specialized. They're not some kind of super smart group of people. They're just average people from a different country. And if average, a lot of times they're below average. So that's not something that we want to encourage in the United States.
So the estimate is 0.6.
Wow.
So I asked ChatGPT, take it for what it's worth. This thing's lying all the time. But I asked it to calculate for Gen Z women so it estimates when they do the TFR, the total fertility rate, they do it in age brackets. They do include teen pregnancy, but I'm not going to include that personally because it's not something we're actually actively trying to encourage, except for later teens maybe, because that was normal for a while. But going by the ages of 19 to 27, it's 0.6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Troubling stuff. Look, I mean, the other thing about, immigration, I mean, let's kind of not miss the forest for the trees here. I mean, it's like a very simple point, but I think it's a pretty important point, which is, I mean, you can't immigrate yourself out of a fertility crisis for the very simple reason that at some point you cease to be a nation, right? I mean, this is kind of just politics 101. I mean, I'm in town to speak at the National Conservative Conference. Our whole movement is about what is the nation? I mean, how does a nation preserve itself there? I mean, at some point, if you're literally just actually replacing or attempting to replace an entire generation with people who are neither of your culture nor have a discernible identifiable culture to actually assimilate into. I mean, I
gotta let you know, you're not going to replace your petroleum engineers with Honduran farmers.
Yeah, no, of course not. Of course not.
Yeah, and that's what they've been trying to do, and that's why it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So what you end up with is an economy has varying degrees of skill requirements. You need you need low skill labor, but too much, and everybody suffers. Animal populations, when they reach their greatest total amount per region, they all starve. They all suffer because they're all getting just enough food to survive to keep the population where it is. So if you flood the country with low skill labor, everybody's underemployed and struggling to get by, and then you create a buckling welfare system. You actually need a band of, small amounts of high-skilled labor, a lot of medium labor. It's a bell curve, basically. And what the Democrats have been trying to do for the past 2 decades, since the financial collapse, is just bring in Haitians and Honduran farmers.
Yeah.
Well, that'll accelerate your collapse.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's even in the Republican Party, Bernie famously said open borders is a Koch brothers proposal because it's the GDP brain that seems to be pernicious on not the right but Republican Party historically, because it's of course, because GDP is just a calculation of the amount of economic activity in your country. So when you flood the country with Hondurans, they're going to be spending money, and if you just keep pouring them in,
right.
People are going to spend more money and the GDP will go up. But GDP is not a way to calculate prosperity and calculate my children's well-being.
Combine the immigration crisis and now the mass deportations with Gen Z bringing their parents to job interviews. I'm sorry, the luxuries today will be gone, and none of this political stuff scares me. Donald Trump saying send the troops, I'm like, whatever. Donald Trump saying we're going to DOJ investigate this person, the Democrats are screaming fascism. Shut up. None of that worries me. The crazy person who believes that I stole his spoons and he's hunting me down, that doesn't scare me. It looks like high security guards. The tsunami that is approaching us in the next several years it's not just about population. It is about skill and culture. Our culture is fragmented. It's fracturing. It's falling apart. Fertility is on the decline. That we're not going to have the labor we need. We're not going to have the skills we need to bring it all back. I wonder if the idea of deploying the National Guard is happening now, not because crime is a problem, but because Trump knows you're going to need what we would call continuity coordination. So this is Presidential Directive 51. Are you guys familiar with this?
No.
They made a video game about it. It's called The Division. George W. Bush signed an executive order called National Security Directive 51. National Security Presidential Directive 51 is what it's called. It gives the president the authority to erase the U.S. government and create a new enduring constitutional government, they call it, and appoint a national continuity coordinator. The idea is, in the event of catastrophic death, economic collapse, or otherwise, the U.S. government must persist. And so this directive has never been tested in the courts. It's never been done. But hypothetically, any president has the authority to say, based on a substantial loss of life anywhere in the world, we are effectively erasing the three-branch government, creating a one-branch government, and assigning a continuity coordinator to control all United States jurisdiction. The idea behind it, whether you support it or not, I don't care. By all means, say it's bad. Sure. My point is the federal government has long known in the event of political, governmental, or economic crises and collapse, you need continuity throughout the entire contiguous United States. So when I see a story, granted, I'm sick over the past 3 weeks, I could talk about it now, saying they want to deploy to 19 cities National Guard, that sounds more to me like governmental contingencies than any kind of crime stopping. Maybe I'm just crazy, but when I look at what's been going on, I have to imagine the U.S. government, the Trump administration, knows what's going to happen in the next several years when you combine fertility crisis along with the immigration crisis.
Well, I think it could. I think
civil war.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it is just the government seeing how El Salvador's handled their problems, and they're like, oh, we can just reciprocate that, replicate that in the United States and get a similar result.
Yeah, that's more or less where I am. I mean, I think a lot of what you're saying, Tim, makes sense. But I mean, law and order, crime. This is just a politically winning issue for Donald Trump. I mean, what Democrats have to say on these issues. I mean, look at Mamdani in New York City. I mean, this nut job running for mayor of Minneapolis. I mean, all of them down to a T. I mean, is there a single major city in America that's been run by Democratic mayors for the past 40, 50 years that is not exponentially worse off today than it was 50 years ago? I can't think of a single one. I mean, Baltimore, Detroit, Philadelphia, St. Louis, Memphis. I mean, like literally, like down to a T. Every single one is crime riddled. Violent crime, property crime, drug addled. Illegal alien overrun, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, he sees a slam dunk of a winning issue. I mean, look, the other thing is, looking at it from like a historical American perspective, there. These battles between the federal government and the states, federalism battles, their local control versus federal government control. I mean, these go back, to all the way to the beginning of the republic, obviously. And, Donald Trump is kind of like a strong government guy. So, I mean, I'm not surprised at all that he's doing this. I mean, it's going to get legally tested. The authority is going to be a little dicier than for Washington, D.C., where he has a unique ability to do so. It's literally the federal district, after all. But the politics here are just a total no-brainer. And, I think most of the non-nut job Chicagoans, to the extent that there are that many remaining, are going to support this move for sure.
And take polls for what you want. Like, some people really think that they're worthless, and that's fine. But poll after poll, these kind of measures are popular because the people that are living with this crime from day to day don't want to live with this crime. They don't want to feel like they're gonna have to jump in the bathtub because there's a shootout outside of their house. They don't want their kids to get shot in playing at the park. That kind of stuff does happen all the time in these big cities with a lot of crime.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.